and we reached Narkanda. And back then again there was not much in Narkanda. Like there was this small dhaba that we were standing near. We were surrounded by like 360 degrees of amazing Himalayan panorama. So we started driving towards Hattu Peak. So we drove 75 kilometers on the old Hindustan-Tibet highway. His car couldn't move forward. We ran into that much snow. And we started walking. And 15 minutes turned into half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. And then suddenly out of nowhere, a big massive Tibetan Bhotia dog appears. Some of the world's biggest mountains are literally stone throw distance away from you. But when the sunset happens, every other mountain is in the colors of grey and blue. But Everest bang in middle is burning golden in color. The present moment came into extreme focus. Everything else melted away. And I was able to exist in that microsecond of a moment. And I fell in love.
हम एवरेस्ट की तो बात कर रहे हैं, हम लोग समिट्स की बात कर रहे हैं, but apart from being mentally and physically prepared about Everest, you also have to be financially prepared about it.
Right.
A lot of people do not have, like dream है हमें एवरेस्ट जाना, but finances नहीं.
Try तो करो. Try ही नहीं करोगे तो हर चीज का आंसर नो ही होने वाला है.
Exactly.
If I don't try, 100% that चीज मुझे अच्छी नहीं लगने वाली.
True.
तो कुछ नहीं करने वाला हूँ. मैंने लाइफ में भी कुछ नहीं किया. मैं अभी काउच पे बैठा था. मैंने कुछ नहीं किया लाइफ में, पर मुझे एवरेस्ट चढ़ना है क्योंकि मैंने किसी का रील देख लिया.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Filterless by Catalyst Crew. Today we have with us Kuntal Joisher, the world's first vegan mountaineer to climb Everest on a vegan diet. So let's have an amazing conversation hearing so many different stories with Kuntal Joisher. Let's get real with Kuntal Joisher on The Filterless. Came cho Kuntal bhai.
I'm good, all good. How about yourself?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
I still cannot believe a Gujarati being a vegan and climbing Everest. How did you do it?
Right. So let's start from start. But I have to tell you that when I announced it to my family that I'm going to climb Everest, this was in October of 2010. I'd just come back from an Everest base camp trip and I was really set. I am going to climb Everest. And so I came home and I thought, the best way is to kind of hold myself accountable is to announce this to the world that I'm going to climb Everest. That way people can't, like 6 months down the line, if I decide I'm not going to climb, they would be like, "Arey Kuntal, तूने तो सबको बोला था कि तू करने वाला था, तो अभी क्या हुआ?" So I'm like, I announced it to my family and I think there was a common reaction. पागल थे क्यों से? There's typical Gujarati mindset that पागल थे क्यों से? You are like, what, going to leave your job, going to live this leave this life that you are have built. So let's go back to my school days, and that's where I really got interested mostly in mountaineering, but let's say not mountaineering, but stories around mountaineering. So I started reading a little bit about Sherpa Tenzing and Sir Edmund Hillary, and I still remember if there would be a quiz in the class and someone would ask like, "Hey, who's the first people to climb Everest?" And like I knew it, like I knew that was Sherpa Tenzing, Sir Edmund Hillary. They had shown the world that nothing is impossible, and consequently they were really my heroes back then. We all have our heroes, Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, like we all have our superheroes. Back then we used to see DD Metro or like Doordarshan, and we used to have all the cartoons coming up. But my heroes were Sherpa Tenzing and Sir Edmund Hillary. So some of the first seeds of why I would climb Everest was sown already back then. But then life took on. I wrote my first piece of code in 1993 and I fell in love with technology.
You are an engineer.
I'm an engineer.
Amazing.
So I first did my science, and then I did my engineering, and then I went to do my masters in the US. Life took on basically. I got my first job and I started working. Then eventually I decided I wanted to move back to Mumbai. So I moved back to Mumbai.
So everything was going very nice.
Things were good. Like things were awesome. I came home. I was building out a massive organization here in Mumbai. During that time, I got married, so life was good. There was not like any quarter life crisis or some like why people would think that hey, this guy is climbing Everest क्यों life में कुछ चल रहा है.
Career shift चाहिए या वैसा कुछ.
Career shift भी नहीं, right? It could be around hey, I'm like pursuing some spirituality or I'm pursuing some challenges. अभी मैंने लाइफ में सब कर लिया, अब मुझे एवरेस्ट चढ़ना है, right? That's usually why people. मेरी लाइफ में कुछ ऐसा नहीं था. It was sheer by chance, by luck that I came into this world of mountains, and it all started with my wife and I decided to go on a trip.
Okay.
This was in February of 2009. We sat down and we said, hey, we want to do a really good vacation. Where should we go?
Exactly.
So wife is like, I have never seen snow in my life, and I would really like to see snow. So I'm like, even I lived in Los Angeles, and the last time I saw snow was like back in 1998 or 1989. So I'm like, it's been 20 years now. I have not seen snow. Let's just go see snow. So we signed up for this trip to go to Shimla in February of 2009, and we thought we are going there in winter, so we'll surely see some snow.
Exactly.
So we land in Shimla, and for the first 6 days, it would get overcast. It would feel like it's going to snow, but nothing would happen. And on top of that, we were terrible tourists because the heater in the room was not working. There was no garam pani in the room. And come to think of it, on Everest at Camp 4 at 26,000 feet,
you are nothing.
I am sleeping in a sleeping bag, freezing my ass off in minus 30 degrees Celsius. And here in Shimla, in a 5-star hotel room, I'm cribbing about hot water.
Exactly.
So, life definitely, came like, went in a different direction. But anyway, back then we thought, okay, 6th day, kuch dekhne nahi mila, this is like terrible, our money wasted. So we were roaming around Shimla market on the 7th day, and we meet this driver who tells us that I can take you to a place where you will definitely be able to touch and feel and enjoy in snow. So we are like, okay, चलो लेके चलो हमें.
वो भी देख लेते.
हम तो ऐसे भी आए 5-6 दिन से कुछ देखा नहीं है. ये देखिए ट्राई करने में क्या जाता है. So he got his Zen. He had a Maruti Zen, and we started going towards a place called Narkanda.
Okay.
Now Narkanda back then was not very famous as it is today, because Narkanda is like the gateway to Spiti, which is now become like really tourist hotspot. So we drove 75 kilometers on the old Hindustan-Tibet highway, and we reached Narkanda. And back then again there was not much in Narkanda. Like there was this small dhaba that we were standing near. We were surrounded by like 360 degrees of amazing Himalayan panorama.
Oh God.
And our driver was like trying to like, अब देख लिया ना, देखो ये इतना सारा स्नो है, चलो चलो. लाइक अगर ये देखना था तो मैं YouTube पे भी देख सकता था. लाइक यहाँ आने की मुझे जरूरत नहीं थी. We really want to touch the snow. So the driver was like, let's drive. There is this peak called Hattu Peak, about 8 kilometers of drive, and we'll get there, and वहाँ आपको 100% स्नो मिल जाएगा. बहुत ही ज़्यादा ड्राई ईयर था 2009. I distinctly remember कहीं भी स्नो नहीं था. Not even in Manali, not even nowhere. स्नो नहीं था.
Anywhere in the north.
Like अच्छा snowfall हुआ नहीं था उस season. So we started driving towards Hattu Peak, and about 1 kilometer of the drive, his car couldn't move forward. We ran into that much snow. Already almost 1 से 1.5 feet snow हो गया और उसका कार पूरा, एक तो पहले मारुति ज़ेन, उसमें वो कोई चेन भी नहीं लेके आया है कि वो आगे चल सके. तो उसका कार ही अटक गया. उसने बोला ऊपर देखो स्नो या नीचे देखो स्नो, तुम लोगों को स्नो देखने से मतलब है. Go enjoy, have your time. Let's just get out of here. We'll go back to Shimla now. So both Dipti and I, we went into the snow. We made some snowballs, threw at each other, played snow angel. सब कुछ किया 10-15 मिनट. हम like बहुत मजा आया. And then we told, I don't know what triggered or what happened. I still don't remember the initial thought of why we decided that we wanted to explore further. But I just think that maybe it was just यार बहुत मजा आ रहा है, let's just go. थोड़ा और थोड़ा चल के आते हैं. ये तो ड्राइवर तो अपने को ऐसे भी लेके जाने के चक्कर में वापस. So we told our driver we'll come back in 15 minutes, and we started walking. And 15 minutes turned into half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. And 4 hours later we had finished the 8-9 kilometer trek, and we were standing on top of Hattu Peak. And I remember at around 3-hour boundary, or somewhere around 3.5 hour boundary, as we were walking and we were towards the very end, हमें ऐसे अब पहले तो 3 घंटे से चल रहे तो हम वी आर शिट स्कैर्ड नाउ कि अब हमने चल लिया इतना, अब हमारी फटके हाथ में आ रही है, अब हम वापस भी नहीं जा सकते क्योंकि 3 घंटे एटलीस्ट 2 घंटे लगेंगे और अभी हम बाजू में भी है और एटलीस्ट वी आर गेटिंग अ फीलिंग दैट वी आर देयर,
पीक इज वेरी नियर,
एटलीस्ट लेट्स जस्ट इतना किया तो लेट्स जस्ट गेट टू द टॉप. बट वी आर ऑल्सो लाइक बहुत डर लग रहा है, समझ में नहीं आ रहा है रास्ता भी बराबर है या नहीं है, घूम गए तो बहुत प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा. एंड देन सडनली आउट ऑफ नोवेयर अ बिग मैसिव टिबेटन भूतिया डॉग अपीयर्स एंड ही जस्ट स्टार्ट्स गाइडिंग अस. एंड बिलीव मी बैक देन आई थॉट ये तो चमत्कार हो गया. But these dog stories have happened forever to human beings in the mountains, where dogs suddenly appear out of somewhere and then they guide people to the top.
You've never seen that dog around या वैसे टाइप के उनके स्पीशीज भी
नहीं वैसे थी,
मतलब नीचे से
नहीं था, suddenly out of the blue 3 घंटे के उस पे आ गया and then walked with us all the way to the top. So we reached the top and 3 of us, Dipti, myself and Dipti, my wife, myself and the dog, we were all like chilled, sitting down. And I have to tell you that till that point in my life, I had never felt this deep joy or I would say absolute inner peace. मतलब एक शांति होती है ना माइंड में और हार्ट में और पूरे बॉडी में, लाइक एक अजीब तरह की एक eerie फीलिंग हो रहा था मुझे. एक साइड में बहुत खुशी भी हो रही बट एक साइड पे आई एम लाइक दिस इज सो अमेजिंग. एंड फॉर दैट वन मोमेंट constantly like otherwise you look at everyday life,
exactly.
You're planning for your future, you are looking at क्या mistakes किया, and in this entire future past वाला thing you forget the present.
आगे का देखना पीछे का देखना वो सब कुछ.
But for me in that moment the present moment came into extreme focus. Everything else melted away and I was able to exist in that microsecond of a moment and I fell in love. And honestly, I did not fall in love with the mountains.
Yeah.
I didn't care about mountains, right? I was miserable. 4 घंटा चल के आए स्नो में, मैंने तो टी शर्ट और जीन्स पहना था, मैंने बोला क्या हो गया है, लोग पागल है क्या क्लाइंबिंग करते हैं, भाड़ में गए तेंजिंग, भाड़ में गया इलरी, आई एम लाइक थिंकिंग क्या पागल कौन आते हैं ये सब करने,
कौन आता है.
बट द मोमेंट आई गॉट ऑन द टॉप and I was able to achieve this state of mind, I fell in love with the state of mind. And I truly thought this is so awesome, like this feels like heaven. And I thought if it would be so great if I can feel like this for the rest of my life.
Definitely.
Now I am someone who is also a little bit on extreme side with most things.
Okay.
Like people will tell me ये balance में करो, ये balance में करो, तो मेरे लाइफ में कोई balance नहीं है. मेरी लाइफ में अगर कोई अच्छी चीज है तो मैं क्यों balance में करूँ उसको?
बराबर.
मुझे नहीं करना है balance में. लोग बोलेंगे बोर हो जाएगा. मैं 15 साल से पहाड़ चढ़ रहा हूँ आज तक बोर नहीं हुआ हूँ, ठीक है. लोग मुझे बोलते हैं तू यार सेम जगह पे माथेरान में 100 बार जाके आया है, तू बोर नहीं होता. मैं बोर नहीं होता. मे बी दिस इज हाउ आई एम मेड. सो I don't get bored of things that I really enjoy, that things I'm passionate about. I don't get boredom so easily from things that I'm passionate about.
You love basically.
I love. So I thought I have to feel like this for the rest of my life. And so हमने trip finish हुआ, हम नीचे आए. Basically the dog was following us because it really wanted to eat some food. And what we realized is that the most of the dog's stories are centered around, of course, bonding with humans because that's how dogs have evolved over the course of so many
years.
1,000 years. But also that the dog wanted food. And हमारे पास कुछ खाना नहीं था other than पानी पूरी खाकरा. So we fed the Tibetan bhotia dog tons of pani puri khakra and he lapped it up because he was so tired. We had of course water, so we even gave him.
This is the most Gujarati thing to hear.
Pani puri khakra. So we had like pani puri and khakra together in one. So that's what we fed him. And of course we came back home. And as I mentioned, I was a passionate technologist. I was building out an organization. And I thought, I'm building out this organization. Maybe, when I go and start again working on some of these challenging projects that I've taken on, maybe I'll feel the same, this passion, this joy,
the rush, adrenaline rush that you got.
To be very honest, adrenaline rush was there, but it wasn't the overwhelming feeling. It was more of a feeling of you truly feel alive. Like I can't explain it in words, and whatever I'm saying is may feel cliched. ये तो क्या dialogue मार रहा है ऐसे आके, but मेरे लिए genuinely that was a life changing moment. So I came home and I tried, falling in love with my work, but I could not.
Okay.
It's not that I don't love technology. I truly love technology. I truly love contributing to
But you've
technology.
seen that part of the world and then you cannot see this part of the world.
So I'm like, ये technology अच्छा है, मुझे बहुत अच्छा भी लग रहा है, but maybe I should go back and try climbing a mountain again. Let's see, वहाँ वैसा feeling आता है नहीं आता है.
Right.
So 2 months के बाद I signed up on another weekend trip to the mountains, and I got there and I was able to achieve the same state of mind again. And this is not like I had to get to the top or something.
Still.
The moment I was in the mountains and climbing mountains,
The feeling was there.
I was able to be in the present and I was able to feel that joy despite of suffering and misery that mountains give you, that you had when you are climbing. I was unfit. I have to tell you, back then I was super unfit. I was nowhere close to the endurance or the strength
That
or the
is
shape that I am in
required.
today. Not even close. So I was miserable when I was going to the mountains. I was not enjoying them, but I was feeling like blissful. So I'm like, yaar, ye to wapas I was able to achieve the state of mind. Maybe I should continue coming to the mountains, and that's what I did for the next 1.5 years, where I kept coming back to the mountains, kept climbing small, weekend trips, 7-day trip,
Hikes.
very, very short things. Eventually, I decided I wanted to see the tallest mountain in the world, Everest. And so, October of 2010, I signed up for a trip. I landed in Kathmandu. From there, we took a short flight to Lukla, which is the starting village of Everest Base Camp. And from there, we walked for like 9 days, if I remember correctly, through some of the most spectacular scenery that I had seen in my entire life. I mean, when you are in the Everest Valley, this is no longer like Indian Himalaya or honestly any other mountains that you have seen. Some of the world's biggest mountains are literally stone throw distance away from you. If I wanted, I could give like a hug to a mountain. It's like that close.
The way you are expressing, उसी से पता चल रहा है मुझे खुद chills आ रहा है. I am a mountain person.
Okay.
I love mountains. The way you are explaining it, I just feel like it would be so beautiful.
Right.
The scenics would be so good. I mean, wow.
It's believe me, Everest Valley is something else. It's very commercialized, and more than 50,000 plus people walk to Everest Base Camp every year. But every time I have gone like that 22 times now already. But every single time I fall in love with the entire valley over again, and it was one of the best experiences. So we reached Everest Base Camp after 8-9 days of walking, and the most anticlimactic thing about Everest Base Camp is that you can't see Everest from Everest Base Camp. So it was a bit of a downer. I'm like, मैं 1.5 साल से I'm thinking about
Just
this
to
mountain,
see,
and I would love to see Everest, but I can't see Everest. Of course, you could see Everest from far as we were walking.
Yeah.
But I thought, yeah, base camp watching and Everest will be like in front of me, and there will be such a
you can hug the other mountains, you will hug Everest.
So it would be like an iconic moment of my life, or बहुत अच्छा लगा, but नहीं हुआ. Luckily, हमारे टीम ने एक छोटा detour रखा था. So from there we trekked about 4 hours to this place called Pumori Base Camp.
Okay.
And we were going to stay at Pumori Base Camp for 2 nights. Now Pumori Base Camp had a spectacular vantage point of Everest. But कैसा हो ना, जैसे ही हम बेस कैंप पहुंचे ना तो थोड़े क्लाउड्स थे एवरेस्ट के ऊपर. सो हमें समझ में नहीं आया कि क्या एवरेस्ट के उधर क्या है. एंड वी डायरेक्टली वेंट टू द डाइनिंग टेंट, क्योंकि शाम के 5:30 पौने 6 बज गए थे. वी आर ऑल वेरी टायर्ड आफ्टर अ वेरी लॉन्ग डे ऑफ वॉकिंग. We just wanted to eat something, so everyone was in the dining tent eating some food, and people were so happy. हमारा एवरेस्ट बेस कैंप हो गया, लाइफ का एक अच्छा गोल ड्रीम हो गया. So everyone, we were eating, we were exchanging stories, exchanging photos, chit-chatting. Life was very good.
All good, huh?
And then this Sherpa guide starts shouting my name outside. But if that's happening in the mountain, it's almost always never good. वो भी मेरा नाम चिल्ला रहा है. तो मैं बाहर भाग के गया. मैंने बोला भाई क्या हो गया? I thought मेरा बैग वैग कुछ छूट गया है, मेरा सामान नहीं आया है, या कुछ लफड़ा हो गया. So I'm like, I came out and He's like, sir, turn around and look at Everest. I mean, he said it in Hindi. He said, sir, Everest को देखो आप. Because when we had gone into Everest, तो देख नहीं रहा था. I'm like, Everest को देखो कहाँ देखो Everest को? He's like, sir, turn मार के देखो तो सही. So I turned around, and the last rays of sunset were directly falling on Everest. Imagine Everest is this gigantic range. Okay, there's Everest in the middle. It's very small, right? Like you are at a base camp, and Everest looks very small.
Only a sunray falling.
But every other mountain around Everest looks gigantic. Like there is Noopse, there's Lola, there's some many other mountains, and they look massive. In a moment, in some moment, you'll even question that Everest का tallest mountain है क्या world का? बाजू का इतना ज़्यादा बड़ा लग रहा है Everest से, उसके आगे वाला भी उससे बड़ा लग रहा है, उसके side वाला उससे बड़ा लग रहा है. You would think Everest is not the tallest mountain in the world. But when the sunset happens, every other mountain is in the colors of grey and blue. But Everest bang in middle is burning golden in color. क्योंकि last sun rays literally Everest पे से छूट रही है. You realize Everest is सबसे tallest mountain in the world.
I'm imagining it that वो एक ही रे बची हुई है.
But like it felt like someone had like lit the whole snow on fire.
Wow.
It was like golden, like burning golden in color. And when I saw Everest that way, to be very frank, that is the moment I fell in love. Yes, you know that when I was, like Sherpa, Tenzing and Sir Edmund Hillary being my superheroes, or I even remember in 12th, I think in 11th standard or something, on DD Metro, PBS, which is Public Broadcasting Station, I think it's a very popular US, or they do documentaries all over the world for free.
Okay.
So they had shown a documentary called Nova Everest, and I had seen the Nova Everest documentary and had really been fascinated by Everest even later on. As a kid, getting inspired by Sherpa Tenzing, then later on as a teenager getting inspired by the Nova Everest documentary.
So I think universe was sending you hints all the time throughout your journey that go Baba, you have to go.
So it naturally progressed, और फिर जब ये एवरेस्ट को ऐसे देखा ना, like बहुत ही cliched Bollywood dialogue है, but honestly पहली नजर में प्यार हो गया मुझे. And so that moment I promised myself, and I told myself I'm going to come back one day, and mountain willing, I'm going to stand on that point. Right? It's always Everest is going to decide, but I am going to come back one day, and that is where the journey of Everest started. Where, hey, I would like to climb Everest, and it's no longer about just a state of mind. Now it has shifted, and this is more tangible dream. Like I want to climb Everest, and while today. Like in October 2010, I acknowledged that आज नहीं कर सकता मैं, because I'm not in the shape. कोई experience नहीं मेरे पास, कोई skills नहीं मेरे पास कुछ भी नहीं है एवरेस्ट चढ़ने के लिए. But that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get to a point where, just as my expedition leader had recommended, that I would need a top of the world body and a top of the world mind to climb Everest, and I was willing to do whatever it takes to build that. And I was willing to go on that journey, and the journey started from that day. And so that's how kind of, I came into the world of Everest, and that's when I came back home, announced to my family that मैं Everest चढ़ने वाला हूँ. And then people are like, पागल थे क्यों चढ़े? 6 महीना नहीं चढ़े. Because people have always known me as someone who do things in 6-month phases.
Yeah.
इसको कुछ तो ये सोचेगा और ये 6 महीना करेगा, फिर छोड़ देगा, अगला 6 महीने वाला चीज सोचेगा. But the first time that got like destroyed, that this concept, this thought process about Kuntal that ये सिर्फ टेम्परेरी कोई चीज करेगा, was when I took on veganism. Because तभी भी मुझे काफी लोगों ने बोला 6 महीने का vegan है. Today it's been 22 years, I have never looked back since.
God.
And then of course I took on Everest, and again 6 महीने वाला criticism came. And I have climbed Everest twice already, and I have climbed gazillion other mountains all across the world, and I continue climbing. So yeah, that's
I
how
think
the
there's this one thing that अगर वो मिल गई ना हमें, तो हम उससे नहीं छोड़ेंगे. हम लोग पूरा life we keep on exploring for that one particular thing.
Correct.
And when we find our own life purpose, I think that's when you stick to that purpose.
I call it finding your own Everest.
Yeah.
So कैसा होता है ना कि मैं भी मैंने वो 6 महीना किया क्योंकि मैं मेरा एवरेस्ट ढूंढ रहा हूँ.
हाँ.
अभी कैसा ना कि there are multiple ways here. either you can put effort and try to find what your Everest are, for which you may have to look at multiple things or try out multiple things with a lot of effort and passion, or alternately it will just come in your lap and fall. But that is the exception to the rule. मेरा केस कैसा था? Exception to the rule था. I by chance fell in love with mountains. Okay, I didn't try to find it. But this does not happen to everyone. क्योंकि ये question मुझे काफी लोग पूछते हैं, यार आप ज्ञान तो बहुत दे रहे हो, find your Everest, find your Everest. But find your Everest कैसे? How to find your Everest? I think for that, if there are certain things that you love and there are certain things that you are passionate about, look, each one of us is passionate about something. Or at least थोड़ा bias है कि मुझे ये चीज अच्छी लगती है.
हाँ, पसंद है.
अरे try तो करो. ट्राई ही नहीं करोगे तो हर चीज का आंसर नो ही होने वाला है.
Exactly.
If I don't try, 100% that चीज मुझे अच्छी नहीं लगने वाली.
True.
If I try, there is a 50-50 chance कि आप you can go either way. If you don't like it, don't. छोड़ दो. Next चीज, right? So that's
is that 6 months rule. So I myself am that kind of a person. मेरे को लोग बहुत impulsive बोलते हैं that you are doing this, 6 months बाद you like some other thing, you will go into that. But nobody knows that the mindset behind it is that I want to try everything until I find my thing.
Correct.
And a coincidence is that I every day tell my parents that my Everest will come to me on 30. So I call myself that my everything is going to be by 30. So I have kept that thing कि life में 30 years की age की मैं होगी ना, तब तक I will find my Everest. भी तो उनको पहले लगता था अच्छा you are going to go to the base camp. Like no, my Everest is that finding my purpose of life, which is very important. Someday or the other you will find, and you found it.
Yes, you can say that, or I'm going to say that it's going to be a never-ending journey.
Definitely.
I don't know what my Everest is. Right?
Something
I've
else.
already climbed Everest 2 times, and hopefully I will find my Everest someday in life.
Definitely.
But I am going to continue trying. These are some of the things I enjoy doing. I enjoy climbing mountains. I enjoy debunking myths around vegan lifestyle. I enjoy, as I said, about animal rights. These are some of the passions that I have, and I continue working, along in these.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we say that Everest climbing is not just about physical and mental balance. You also need to figure out finances for it. So can you just break down how did you figure out the finances for your trip, as well as give guidance to the people who are planning to?
So, first of all, to climb Everest, it's not just about the expedition itself, right? The expedition itself is of course expensive, but on top of that, you also need a certain specialized gear which is going to cost you money.
Okay.
On top of that, if you are someone like me who's starting from scratch, then you will also have to spend a lot of money on your training, right? ठीक है, so for example, मेरा case लेते हैं. I started my training in October of 2010, and October of 2010 से लेके April 2014 when I made my first attempt, इस पूरे time के period के में I did one mountaineering course.
Okay.
Now you can do a mountaineering course in India. And these courses are available in 5 institutes in India.
Okay.
There is a basic mountaineering course and an advanced mountaineering course. और हर course I think around 12-13 हजार रुपए का है. It's a 1-month course and they give you everything. They give you gear and they give you food and they give you teaching. अब ये हो गया इंडिया का. But I decided कि मुझे वर्ल्ड के दूसरे पार्ट में जाना था. मुझे अर्जेंटीना जाना था, चिली जाना था actually, a little north of or south of or north of Argentina. And I wanted to do my course in Chile in an area called the Northern Ice Cap. There are 3 big ice sheets in the world. The biggest is Antarctica. The second biggest is Southern Ice Cap.
Okay.
And the third biggest ice, this is like an ice sheet. It's like pura ice sheet ही है. तो उसमें third biggest and the most remote and then I would say even least visited is the Northern Ice Cap.
Okay.
So I wanted to go do my mountaineering course there. So I ended up going there and doing my mountaineering course. Now that costed me almost $10,000. So that's in today's, thing, it's about 8-9 lakh rupees. You don't have to spend that much. So I'll, definitely.
You can do it in India also.
You can definitely do it in India. My thought process was that ये advanced और basic course दोनों एक साथ में हो जाएंगे. And it's more of a personalized teaching. इंडिया में कोर्सेज में कैसे ना कि एक कोर्स में 80 से 100 लोग होते. सो मुझे थोड़ा पर्सनलाइज्ड टीचिंग चाहिए था जहां 1:1 भी थोड़ा मेरा कोचिंग हो.
because depending on the body also, if you are not that physically active also, you are a computer science guy.
Correct.
So इतना होता ही नहीं है. So you have to first get into all physical trainings, exercises.
Right.
तो उसके लिए थोड़ा personal approach is needed. Yeah.
Correct. But मेरा कैसा सोचना था कि even more than physical fitness, it's just the skill. अगर मुझे ज्यादा प्रैक्टिस करने का टाइम मिला, 40 डेज का कोर्स था, अगर मुझे ज्यादा प्रैक्टिस करने का टाइम मिले, हैंड्स ऑन प्रैक्टिस करने का टाइम मिले, अभी अगर 100 लोग होंगे तो दिन में एक ही बार आप प्रैक्टिस कर पाओगे फॉर अ वेरी शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन. सो मेरा क्या सोचना था कि मुझे यहाँ जाना है, थोड़ा मोर पर्सनलाइज कोचिंग चाहिए, थोड़ा मोर पर्सनलाइज स्किल बिल्डिंग चाहिए, और प्रैक्टिस करने का ये चाहिए, लाइक अपॉर्चुनिटीज. सो आई थॉट, एंड प्लस मुझे ऐसा था, मुझे नया कंट्री देखना था. एंड आई विल ऑल्सो, as we are going through this conversation, I do want to make it very clear that some of these decisions that I made, or some of these financial decisions that I made, come from also a privileged place, right? Given the safety net of my family and my background, I was able to make some of these decisions. कभी कभी हम कैसा बोलते, find your Everest, जाओ एवरेस्ट चढ़ो, जाओ ट्रैवल करो, जॉब छोड़ छाड़ के ये सब करो. अरे भाई, एडवाइस सब बोलने में और रील्स में अच्छा लगता है, प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ में ये सब एप्लीकेबल नहीं है. अनलेस यू आर कमिंग फ्रॉम अ प्रिविलेज प्लेस, राइट, वेयर योर फैमिली हैज डन इनफ एंड maybe you have a certain security net to tell someone who's the only breadwinner of the family, छोड़ छाड़ के जाओ, क्रिएटर बन जाओ. अरे भाई, प्रैक्टिकल नहीं है. unless it's your passion and you are really good at it and you want to do it, ठीक है.
And you have a guaranteed thing that उसमें से कुछ निकल के आएगा ताकि फैमिली चल सके.
Correct, right? So a lot of these things you will see do come from a privileged place where there was financial security from my family side, or given that I had worked for long enough and I also had my own savings, that I had my own finances also in place, right? So कैसा था ना वहाँ. So I went to do this thing so I did my mountaineering course in Chile. But again, it does not have to be done. I truly believe that everyone who wants to go climb Everest or climb mountains should do a mountaineering course. Okay. And a basic and an advanced course from India is very much fine. Okay. It will be done in 26,000 rupees. Yeah. And I feel that is far more affordable than spending 8 lakh rupees and going in some different country and ये सब
exploring.
ठीक है. So basic एक course, पहले तो course का खर्चा हो गया. And then you will also have to do expeditions on your own.
Okay.
Now these expeditions can also be done in a very costly fashion, or these expeditions can also be done in a slightly cheaper fashion.
Okay.
What I ended up doing is I ended up doing fair amount of expeditions in Ladakh. I did in Uttarakhand. I did it in Nepal.
Okay.
But most of these expeditions were on the expensive side.
Okay.
So I ended up spending almost significant chunk of my savings from 8, 9, 10 years of working in the tech industry behind my training. And gear bhi buy karna tha. So if you look at gear that is required for Everest, it can easily be 3 to 5 lakh rupees. You need 2 sleeping bags. You need a one-piece suit. You need boots. Boots ka cost is about $1,400. Exactly. Just think, that's like nearly 1,10,000, 1,20,000 for your boots. Couple of sleeping bags is going to cost you 1 lakh rupees. A suit is going to cost you $1,200. That's another lakh rupees there. So the main big 4-5 items is going to cost you 3.5 lakh rupees.
That is needed.
Absolutely needed. In addition to this, you will also have to buy another like 1.5-2 लाख रुपया का हो ही जाने वाला है खर्चा. तो 5 लाख रुपया तो गेयर का पकड़ के चलो जो आपको लग जाने वाला है. अगर मैं मेरा ट्रेनिंग का गिनूं तो इजीली मैंने तो 12 से 15 लाख रुपया ट्रेनिंग में स्पेंड किया. खुद के एक्सपीडिशंस पे ज्वाइन करो, यहाँ जाओ वहां जाओ, प्लस कोर्स का अगर मेरा 10 लाख रुपया पकड़ लिया, तो वो 10 लाख और 15 लाख जो मैंने ट्रेनिंग के पीछे खर्चा किया, मेरा तो सारी सेविंग्स उड़ गई लाइफ की, खत्म, जीरो हो गया मेरा बैंक बैलेंस. एंड देन कम टू एवरेस्ट एक्सपीडिशन इटसेल्फ. अ सिंपल एवरेस्ट एक्सपीडिशन कैन कॉस्ट यू अराउंड 30 to 35 लाख रुपीस. ठीक है. सो 30 to 35 लाख रुपीस एवरेस्ट का, 5 लाख रुपया गेयर का पकड़ लो, और अगर ट्रेनिंग और कोर्सेस में थोड़ा चीपर साइड पे भी कर दूं, फिर भी you spend 4 to 5 lakh rupees behind that, right? So you are easily looking at 40, 45, 50 lakh rupees of kharcha over the course of your entire Everest expedition का
expedition.
one expedition का, ये तो एक attempt का है.
हाँ.
And in
नहीं
my
हुआ.
case, तो my first attempt was cancelled, my second attempt was cancelled, and finally I submitted on my third attempt. तो
बाप रे.
first attempt was sponsored.
हाँ.
Luckily, what happened is that for all my technology career, I have worked for just one company.
Okay.
And when it came time to go to Everest, I reached out to them and I said that, hey, if you can sponsor me in any way.
Yeah.
So initially, I remember my CEO got back to me and said that we'll be able to make a small sponsorship contribution and we may be able to give you like a satellite phone or something.
हाँ.
So उसने मुझे बोला $2,500 दे देंगे और एक satellite phone दे देंगे.
हाँ.
That would be the
max that we can
reasonable. And then suddenly a month later he said that we want to sponsor your entire expedition and we don't want any other sponsor to come into picture. So we'll take care of everything. He also said not just that, we will also take care of one training climb of yours and we'll buy all your gear.
Wow.
And we would like to make an entire documentary about this whole journey. So my full Everest expedition was sponsored. So Sara, 30-35 lakh was covered. Another 5 lakh for a training expedition was covered. 5 lakh for my gear was covered.
And
a documentary crew following me and shooting a documentary about my life. So honestly, that was just a big surprise. To everyone who aspires to climb Everest, I'll say that again, this is an exception to the rule. Unless you have spent that much time with a certain company and they truly believe in you and they truly believe in your journey, they may get involved and give you a sponsorship like this. Otherwise, don't sit and expect कि कोई कुछ देने वाला है. You will have to work hard. To give you an example, मेरा एक friend है Rafiq. He in 2016 Rafiq became the first policeman from Maharashtra to summit Everest.
Oh.
Okay, so Rafiq told me that in a year he would meet approximately 600 to 650 people.
Just for this.
Just for sponsorship. So 650 people agar main ginu, that is roughly meeting 1-2 people in a day. In a day. To ask for sponsorship. This is businessmen. These are, friends. These are family. These are people who he has just met. Trekkers, passionate mountaineers, whatever. He told me किसी ने मुझे 50 रुपया दिया, किसी ने मुझे 500 रुपया दिया, किसी ने मुझे 5,000 दिया. And he said कभी कभी तो ऐसा भी हुआ कि कोई मैं किसी MLA को मिलने जा रहा हूँ तो MLA पीछे के डोर से कट ले रहा है कि अब मैं ऐसे 4-5 बार मुझे बुलाया और ऐसे वो लोग भाग जाते हैं. 1 रुपया भी नहीं दिया मुझे.
पुलिस. हाँ.
So he said कि काफी कुछ होगा. You have to keep your ego on the side and enter that door, and you need help. Do not expect anyone to buy into your dream or your goal. Just go and ask for help without any expectation. मिला तो मिला, नहीं मिला तो thank you बोल के go to the next person and meet the next person. Now that's of course one way of doing things. There are multiple ways of doing or trying to find sponsorship, right? But for people who are trying to find sponsorship, I will say that if you want to climb Everest, like absolutely beyond, you just want to climb Everest, this is the biggest dream of your life, then you should be ready financially yourself.
Okay.
Because there will be a good chance that no one will sponsor your climb. And you shouldn't be, today आज कैसा है ना कि पूरा आज के जनरेशन के क्लाइंबर्स है ना, अनफॉर्चुनेटली क्या हो गया है ना कि वो लोग अपने आप को विक्टिम बना के बैठे. आई एम अ विक्टिम. अरे मेरे गवर्नमेंट ने मुझे 1 रुपया भी नहीं दिया, ये वो. अरे व्हाई आर यू बिकमिंग अ विक्टिम? व्हाई इज अ गवर्नमेंट सपोज्ड टू स्पॉन्सर योर क्लाइंब? व्हाट इज इट दैट, क्या उखाड़ रहे हो तुम? क्या उखाड़? We'll get into some of the nitty-gritties about how climbing happens. But my point is, why are you feeling a sense of entitlement that someone should support you?
It's your dream.
It is your dream. Why not you work for it, right? So, for example, I would personally suggest that people should spend time figuring out a certain career where they can make money and they can save money enough that they don't have to depend on a sponsorship. मेरे हिसाब से. Now, second, try for a sponsorship. But before you do that, अपने आप को काबिल तो बनाओ. Today I meet people who are like college में, second year में मैंने एक ट्रैक किया कल सुबह, अभी मुझे एवरेस्ट चढ़ना है. अरे किया क्या है तुमने जो तुम्हें मैं एवरेस्ट बस पूछो भी. What have you done in life? why should I give you even a single penny to climb Everest? Who are you? Right? You haven't proven yourself. If nothing else, go and do a basic course, go and do an advanced course, go climb 4-5 mountains, prove yourself. Prove that you are worthy of that sponsorship. We are a 140 crore people country. Okay, there are many, many mountaineers that we don't even know of. Right? So, what my suggestion to youngsters is that पहले अपने आप को काबिल बनाओ. Create a profile of yourself. Right? That मैंने ये किया है. Right? And today Instagram, social media is so powerful, right? So use, the world of social media as well. Right? Share about your climbs. Share about your passions. Start giving information to people.
Exactly.
Who knows, you may be able to find some good brand collaborations. You may be able to find some good deals.
Even for your small expeditions also, you can get brand sponsorships today.
कितना कुछ हो सकता है. आज world कुछ 10 साल पहले जैसा नहीं है, where I was trying to find my first sponsorship, where social media was not this relevant, where reels so didn't even exist.
Exactly.
None of this stuff existed, right? And so I would say that first create your profile. Do the hard work. If possible, even find a job, work hard, save money. कुछ नहीं हुआ तो कैसा होगा मालूम है? Let's say you are ready to climb Everest, and you have saved 15 lakh rupees. If you go and ask someone that 30 लाख में से मुझे सिर्फ 15 लाख दो, 15 लाख मैं खुद का डाल रहा हूँ सामने से, people will be more than happy to pitch in that money.
Exactly.
Instead of you just going and acting
पूरा
like
दे दो.
हाँ पूरा दे दो. मैं तो कुछ नहीं करने वाला हूँ. मैंने लाइफ में भी कुछ नहीं किया. मैं अभी काउच पे बैठा था. मैंने कुछ नहीं किया लाइफ में, पर मुझे एवरेस्ट चढ़ना है क्योंकि मैंने किसी का रील देख लिया और अभी मैं बहुत ये हो गया हूँ. क्योंकि आई विल ऑनेस्टली टेल यू, जब 2016 में मैंने एवरेस्ट क्लाइम किया, 19 में रिपीट किया, बट आफ्टर कोविड इतने डीएम्स फ्रॉम पीपल हु वांट टू गो एंड क्लाइम एवरेस्ट, एंड द वेरी फर्स्ट थिंग आई टेल देम इज फिनिश द बेसिक कोर्स, कम बैक टू मी, मैं बात करूंगा आपके साथ. कोई वापस नहीं आता है क्योंकि बेसिक कोर्स भी करने के लिए उनको दे आर लेजी. सो माई पॉइंट इज दैट मैंने तो मेरा जर्नी किया, मुझे स्पॉन्सरशिप मिला. सेकेंड टाइम इन 2015 आई क्राउड फंडेड माई एक्सपीडिशन. सो आई वेंट ऑन एन ऑनलाइन क्राउड फंडिंग साइट, एंड देयर वर पीपल फ्रॉम ऑल अराउंड द वर्ल्ड. All most of my well-wishers who were really, some of them were vicariously living their dreams through me.
Okay.
So they just donated. They said, यार हम तो नहीं कर सकते, कुंतल तू करके आ हमारे behalf पे. But to even get to that point, I had to build my 5 साल का जर्नी मुझे लेना पड़ा, right? सर इमेजिन मैं काउच पे बैठा होता 2009 में और बोलता मैं एवरेस्ट चढ़ने वाला हूँ. Who would be supporting me back then?
Imagine after that वो शिमला वाली ट्रिप you are telling कि मुझे एवरेस्ट चढ़ना है,
right? So people would not be believing in me, right? So इतने सारे DMs कर रहे हैं, एक बेसिक कोर्स भी नहीं कर रहे हैं ना. So now I'm like, I realize कि इतनी भी मेहनत नहीं कर सकते हो अपने ड्रीम के लिए. मेरा भी ड्रीम है, आपका ड्रीम है. पर आपको एवरेस्ट चढ़ना है, आप ही मेहनत नहीं कर रहे हो. So I crowdfunded my thing in 2015, and in 2016 what I ended up doing is I ended up breaking my bank.
Okay.
I had some savings that I had kept on the side that I would never touch. I decided that मुझे वो touch करना पड़ेगा क्योंकि एक बार तो मुझे ऑलरेडी स्पॉन्सरशिप मिल चुका था. अब मैं वापस तो जा नहीं सकता हूँ और मैं उनको बोल नहीं सकता हूँ कि भाई आप मुझे स्पॉन्सरशिप वापस दो. सेकंड क्राउड फंड भी कर चुका हूँ, मैं वापस उनके पास भी नहीं जा सकता हूँ कि आप मुझे क्राउड फंड करो, राइट? सो देन आई डिसाइडेड अब मुझे खुद से ही करना है. सो आई ब्रोक माई बैंक एंड आई टुक 2 loans, one from the expedition agency itself and one from my brother. The expedition agency का कैसा था, यार तुम 2 साल से आ रहे हो, मुझे चाहिए तुम एवरेस्ट चढ़ जाओ, ऐसा होगा तो मैं फ्री में चढ़ा दूंगा तुम्हें एवरेस्ट. लाइक इतना they were so much around it. They said come. So I took those 2 loans. Some portion of the money I took it from my pocket, and luckily permit मेरा 2014 का जो cancel हुआ था, that was effective in 2016. So मैं वो use कर पाया, वहाँ थोड़ा मेरा पैसा बच गया. And मुझे मेरा expedition was not 32 lakh. It was it came down lesser than 20 lakh rupees.
Got it.
So with couple of loans and some of money from my pocket, it was manageable. And I was able to do Everest finally. So that is how I funded my expedition. But honestly, what I will tell people who really want to climb Everest is, as you pointed out, that physical fitness तो चाहिए. So 3 facets जिस पे बहुत ज़्यादा ध्यान देना है. Start by working on your physical fitness. और वो तो नेवर एंडिंग जर्नी है,
Yeah.
वो चलते रहने वाला है। एवरेस्ट खत्म हो उसके बाद भी
उसके
चलते
बाद
रहने
भी
वाला है,
चलेगा।
ठीक है। सो एक फिजिकल फिटनेस पे ध्यान दो, सेकंड इज मेंटल फिटनेस, तो उस पे वर्क करते रहो, ये भी फुल लाइफ की जर्नी है। एंड थर्ड इज कि अपने फाइनेंशियल बिट पे भी वर्क करो। ब्रोकन इट डाउन इनटू प्रैक्टिकल टर्म्स, आई वुड से स्टार्ट बाय डूइंग अ बेसिक एंड एन एडवांस कोर्स, do a few expeditions, training expeditions. On the side, once you are starting to build out your profile, start trying to figure out for brand collaborations, start reaching out to brands that maybe, let's say you are a CA, so you can be in some fintech world में जाके कि it's बहुत ही यूनिक
कैपिटल ग्रुप्स के पास से
हाँ कि मैं पहाड़ चढ़ रहा हूँ और मैं सीए हूँ और मैं फाइनेंस में हूँ, तो फिगर आउट समथिंग व्हिच इज वेरी यूनिक, एक स्टोरी बनाओ, राइट? ऐसे ही मत पहुंच जाओ, राइट? एक यूनिक चीज उनको बताओ, तुम्हारी खुद की स्टोरी तुम वहां जाके बताओ। करेक्ट। टू गिव यू एन आइडिया, जिस कंपनी ने मुझे फर्स्ट टाइम स्पॉन्सर किया, जो मेरा 2014 का था, their whole, they had a software or they had a web application, it still exists today, where they do mass calling. Okay, for example, let's take the example of US elections. तो US elections में कैसा होता है ना, mass calling होता है. Like for example, 1 million calls एक साथ जाते हैं और hey, I am President Trump, I would like to vote for me, or I am Kamala Harris, I would like you to ऐसे anything, for anything, crowdfunding ऐसे cold calling के through. Call, तो ऐसे mass calling होता है. So what they wanted me to do is, they wanted me to take maybe a tablet or maybe a laptop on the along with a satellite connection on the top of Everest and actually do a mass calling from top of Everest. So हमने like nice ऐसा ये पूरा बनाया, right? So figure out a great story so that you are able to land a sponsorship, but on the side continue working, continue making money. It may be through your passion or it may be through a certain work that you are doing. And कभी-कभी लोग मुझे बोलते हैं कि यार मुझे मैं टेक्नोलॉजी में हूँ, मैं कोडिंग कर रहा हूँ, पर मुझे कोडिंग में जरा भी मजा नहीं आता क्योंकि मेरा फाइनल पैशन माउंटेन चढ़ना है। अरे कोडिंग इज काइंड ऑफ टेकिंग केयर ऑफ योर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज, इट्स टेकिंग केयर ऑफ योर बिल्स, इट्स टेकिंग केयर ऑफ ऑल ऑफ योर दोज थिंग्स. You have to certain times do things that you don't like to finally do the things that you like, right? So take care of that, make थोड़ा सेविंग्स करो, जो भी कर सकते हो करो अपने साइड से, फाइनेंशियल बिट का टेक केयर करो, and then eventually hopefully at some point things will line up, and you will be able to climb Everest. But I will tell one thing here, that even if you are not able to climb Everest, that is still okay. You won. It's not end of the world, right? Journey is more important. अब journey में काफी transformation होगा आपके life में. You will become the person you want to eventually, and you may climb smaller mountains. Yeah, and maybe that's not your Everest. Or maybe it will happen later on in life, right? Like people, like this is what create, like I feel pushes people towards more victim mentality, where मुझे तो कोई support ही नहीं कर रहा है, मैं तो vegan हूँ, vegan लोग भी मुझे support नहीं कर रहे हैं, कोई मुझे पैसा नहीं दे रहा है, मुझे तो ये पहाड़ चढ़ने जाना है, मैं veganism के बारे में क्या कुछ भी इतना सब करूंगी, पर मुझे तो कोई पैसे नहीं दे रहा है, this that, अब मेरे से नहीं होगा, मैं बैठ हाँ. अरे this is this, exactly. Don't make yourself victim. You're not a victim, okay? If you can't raise sponsorship, continue training, continue climbing mountains, continue working, continue making money on the side, continue saving. Yeah. आज नहीं तो कल इधर परसों इधर हो जाएगा. So that is what I would say in terms of financial bit. थोड़ा I think depth में गए, but कभी-कभी कैसा होता है ना कि मैं रील्स देखते रहता हूँ पूरे टाइम. ये एवरेस्ट के फाइनेंशियल बिट पे इतनी सारी रील्स है ना इंटरनेट पे. This is very important क्योंकि they simplify, I mean simplify is the wrong word. मतलब ये तो बहुत सिंपल है, हो जाएगा. I would think it has to be thought through a lot better by everyone who's trying to climb Everest or trying to climb mountains. More practical mindset. Right. Not कि आज मेरा मन नहीं है, जिंदगी से उठ गया, तब मैं mountains में चला गया है करके. Understood. Another thing, since we are talking about physical, mental training, family को कैसे convince किया? Right, family को कैसे convince किया? ये वाला देखो, पहले तो घर पे आके बोला कि I am going to climb Everest. So I think wife and mother were of course a little worried about my safety because I had no background. So I'm a software engineer.
Yeah.
So it's not like मैं mountaineering कर रहा हूँ. Suddenly I'm talking about climbing the tallest mountain in the world. And that they have seen some movies about Everest and heard about Everest that people die on Everest. So there was this concern from mother and wife that यार ये वाला थोड़ा risky situation लग रहा है. Of course, everyone else, honestly, I didn't care about.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to convince them. उनको जो सोचना है सोचे, भाड़ में गया, मुझे कौन सा कुछ लेना देना है, right? No, I'm not living my life with other people. So
वो तो एवरेस्ट चढ़ के आओगे तो तुम्हारे ही पास आने वाले, नहीं चढ़ के आओगे तो तुम्हें ही गाली देने वाले.
तो उनका तो मुझे उनसे कुछ मुझे फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा था. So I had to convince my mother and my wife, and I think it was really hard. What it came down was that for me, Everest had become an obsession. I think it had gone beyond obsession. It had gone to a point where Everest had become my life.
Okay.
And relationships didn't matter. Nothing mattered. Again, this goes back to the point that I am an extreme person.
Yeah.
That once I decide to do something, that I have to do it. Or I have to. It's not like एवरेस्ट क्लाइम करना है, doesn't mean मैं एवरेस्ट के टॉप पे पहुंच जाने वाला हूँ, बट मैं करने तो वाला हूँ ट्राई.
Someday or the other I'm going.
वो मुझे कोई रोक नहीं पाने वाला है. So that's something, I was in the mode. So initial conversations तो try किए, they were still not very happy. एवरेस्ट तो नहीं चढ़ रहा था, पर छोटे छोटे माउंटेन्स चढ़ रहा था, प्रेपरेशन कर रहा था, 20,000 feet mountains, and lot of training कर रहा था, प्रेपरेशन कर रहा था. So they were like शायद नहीं चढ़ेगा, maybe 1 साल जाएगा, 2 साल जाएगा. So they were also little शायद नहीं चढ़ेगा. But then it came time to climb Everest. 2013 CEO का फोन आ गया था, I'm willing to sponsor. So अब तो सब कुछ, everything is in place, and 2014 I want to go climb Everest.
Yeah.
And so then the discussion started, and so I sat down with my mother and wife, and I told them, you have 2 options in life. या तो आप एक्सेप्ट करो कि मैं एवरेस्ट चढ़ने वाला हूँ एंड जिंदगी भर खुश रहूंगा. या तो आप एक्सेप्ट करो कि मैं एवरेस्ट नहीं चढ़ूंगा पर जिंदगी भर मैं आपके साथ ज़ॉम्बी की तरह रहूंगा.
रिग्रेट में कि मैं खुद करना
that you will never have the Kuntal who will be happy. Yeah. You will always have a Kuntal who is unhappy that he didn't pursue his dream.
Yeah.
So you have to choose which Kuntal you want. Now, I want to take a step back and I want to tell your audience that please don't pull this off on your family. And this is definitely what I did. True. Is emotional blackmail of my family, and that they had no choice, right?
Yeah.
Basically, मैं बोल रहा था कि यही choice है तुम्हारे पास, but मैं ऐसे दिखाने का try कर रहा था कि मैं आपको option दे रहा हूँ, right? पर choice तो वही है, दूसरा तो कोई choice नहीं है यहाँ, right? So this is what happened. They of course agreed, but also what I had done over the course of last couple of years, as it got to the point where this choice was going to be made, was that I also demonstrated to them that I am a very good climber. That I am a very reasonable climber. That मैं कर लूँगा. And that अगर पहाड़ पे कुछ something goes wrong, then I will not hesitate in cancelling and coming back.
संभाल भी लूँगा.
That I am competent. That I will not make stupid choices. I will not make reckless decisions. Like मैं कहीं कोई क्रेवास पे जाके खड़े रह के सेल्फी खींच रहा हूँ, कहीं रॉक पे खड़े रह गया और उधर से fall in. I will not do stupid things on the mountain.
Exactly.
I will not take stupid decisions on the mountain. And I will listen to my gut, and if it says that I have to go home, I have to go home. So that's kind of the thing that they already, उनको पता चल गया था कि यार ठीक ठाक ये संभाल लेगा अपने आप को. Yes, there was that feeling that कुछ भी हो सकता है एवरेस्ट पे, but they also knew that ये बंदा अपने आप को संभाल लेगा. So I think it was
balance.
Like balance of everything. It was definitely some amount of emotional blackmail involved here, but that is how I convinced my wife and my mother to allow me to go climb Everest.
And how did you convince your own self? There are jackets and everything जहाँ पर animal fur है या फिर animal skin है.
Correct.
उसका use तो होता ही है. Did you try of doing any expedition where you did not use that also and you're a complete vegan?
A vegan is someone who does not eat any animal or any animal products, who does not wear any animal or animal products. ये ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि ये लोग बोल रहे vegan बन के तुम नहीं चढ़ पाओगे पहाड़. I'm like, डिफरेंस क्या है, राइट? मैं तो यही खा रहा हूँ. Most of the associations are saying that a well-researched and a well-planned vegan diet is optimal for health of humans of all ages.
So I want to know that what was the feeling when you started climbing for the Everest for the very first time?
Between base camp and camp 1. Even before we could start the expedition, there was a massive accident that happened in an area called the Khumbu Icefall. And 17 Sherpa guides died in that one single accident. One of the largest accidents at that point on Everest. And next year things, started getting a little better in the sense that at least हमें पहाड़ पे जाने मिला. We were able to kind of do a little bit more climbing. But then an earthquake happened. And earthquake was followed by an avalanche, and 21 people died at the base camp. 100 people were injured, and more than 10,000 people were killed in Nepal. And finally, at around 9:20 in the morning, I took the first steps to stand on the top of Everest.